Hello everyone, my name is Wilken and I will be discussing a study on the role of cultural moderators in intercultural business negotiations. Transactions in business-to-business markets frequently rely on negotiations between selling and buying companies. Thus, understanding and mastering the drivers of successful business negotiations is essential for B2B companies. Their negotiations often include multiple members of a decision-making body. Multi-person decision-making is common on both buyer and seller sides. For example, US industry estimates indicate that up to 75% of B2B companies sell in teams. The challenges of negotiations between teams are well known. They include a higher risk of interpersonal conflicts, communication inefficiencies, or the need to devote attention to group maintenance functions. However, we know little about team negotiations in intercultural settings, even as deal-making across borders gains increasing importance, particularly in Europe, where 2/3 of international trade occurs among various European companies. In such intercultural settings, negotiators lack a shared basis of knowledge and attitudes. This limits the creation of trust and sympathy that can improve problem-solving and cooperative behaviors. Communication problems also are more likely. Thus, intercultural negotiations seem difficult with respect to course and process dynamics. From the perspective of the selling company, it might manage the negotiation process more effectively by equipping its sales teams with a member who has the same cultural background as the buyer. We refer to this individual as a cultural moderator, in that he or she can help bridge the cultural distance to the buyer. Extant literature offers several justifications for this proposal, because a cultural moderator should increase the level of perceived cultural similarity between negotiation partners. Cooperative behavior at the bargaining table should be promoted. Research on international negotiations stresses the need for cultural adaptation, and various sectors suggest that improved understanding of clients results from the appointment of local faces. Such locals are better able to understand a local client's needs, speak the client's language, and recognize the client's traditions or patterns of behavior. All of this can facilitate the communication process. However, we posit that this unconditionally positive perspective on the outcomes of including a cultural moderator on the negotiation process needs refinement and extension. For example, extant research suggests a positive influence of collectivism on integrative behavior in intra-cultural settings. In a team negotiation context, then, a cultural moderator might promote the use of integrative strategies only if he or she increases the negotiation team's level of collectivism. Although the use of specific negotiation strategies might constitute an important goal for B2B companies, achieving economic outcomes must be a prominent objective too, especially for a seller. This goal is even more important during economic downturns. Because the process-outcome link can be inconclusive, it is relevant to analyze the effectiveness of a cultural moderator with respect to not only the negotiation process, but also measures of economic outcomes. This study's contribution is twofold. First, we empirically test predictions from intercultural theory on how a cultural moderator influences the team's use of negotiation strategies as core process-related negotiation variables. Second, we explore whether and how a cultural moderator's influence on the negotiation process translates into monetary outcomes. We now highlight some of the empirical findings. First, we investigated intercultural team composition and its impact on negotiation processes and economic outcomes of intercultural B2B negotiation settings. Team culture affected team negotiation strategies, and collectivistic teams are more prone to use integrative strategies and less prone to use distributive strategies. In essence, our study shows that the collectivism effect on negotiation behavior in individual settings is valid for seller teams too. Second, we analyzed the roles of cultural moderators in seller teams. Hereby, we identified an ambiguous role of cultural moderators. Depending on this person's level of collectivism, the team's level of collectivism, and thus the relative use of distributive and integrative strategies, get affected. We thus cannot say that a cultural moderator makes the team behave more integratively. Instead, it all depends on the team level collectivism and thus the individual team member's cultural background. At the same time, cultural moderators always help reach better economic outcomes, independent of their cultural background. Both the seller team's individual profit and the joint profit with the buyer increase. Nevertheless, the link between negotiation process and negotiation outcome remained inconclusive. Particularly, intercultural theory cannot explain our findings, which may be operating according to a more complex mechanism, complemented by social identity theory. Social identity theory assumes that group membership breeds a strong sense of internal togetherness, so this is in-group identification, and external separation, this is out-group differentiation. Ad hoc group membership can be quite strong. It is possible that team membership at the bargaining table falls into the same category. Cultural moderators can exploit their proximity to their negotiation counterpart exclusively for the benefit of the team to which they belong. A positive relationship between team togetherness and team performance also has appeared in prior literature. From a practical angle, our study should help sales managers prepare for intercultural business negotiations. Whether a cultural moderator would be useful to pursue process-related goals depends on the cultural backgrounds of the involved parties. A team member with a specific cultural background can leverage integrative or distributive strategies of that team. In this sense, our study suggests a means to systematically influence the strategies that the team uses at the bargaining table. On the contrary, if companies adopt a more outcome-related perspective, we unconditionally recommend equipping seller teams with cultural moderators. Some companies also might consider process and outcome-related goals simultaneously. Our results suggest that doing so can generate goal conflicts. Therefore, companies must be cautious and clearly define their goals when relying on a cultural moderator in intercultural negotiations. Thank you for watching and be sure to check out our other research videos.